my sweeties, and welcome back to my channel. If you don't already know me, my name is Celise, and thank you for joining my spooky little family. In today's video, we have a very special guest, and that is my girl. Ooh. And that is my cat 11, also known as Lev. So if you were wondering what the hell I am saying every time I say this film gets 4.5 Levs out of 5, that is this girl. She looks like she hates me, but I promise she loves me. In today's video, we will be talking about everything I watched in July. Let's get into the video. Okay, so let's get right into it. First up, we have Identity from 2003. This film stars John Cusack, Ray Liotta, Amanda Peet, and many others. So this one was a lot of fun. I actually watched this film with my two best friends and we had a good time with it. It had been my first time watching this one, and I don't know why I hadn't seen it sooner because John Cusack, amazing. I am obsessed with John Cusack. If you have not seen Identity, it is basically about all these random people that are at a motel and they get mixed up in this murder, and there's a murderer on the loose, and it's pretty wild. There's also a lot of twists and turns, and it's a pretty good thriller, but I will say there are definitely a lot of movies that must have been inspired by this, or this is just like one of those things that people do a lot. But this film really did remind me a lot of Split from M. Night Shyamalan and also Shutter Island. So if you liked both of those movies, you would probably like Identity. I gave this film 3.5 stars. Next up, we have Final Destination. Okay, so I hadn't seen Final Destination in probably like 10 years. I don't even know, but I actually did watch this also with my two best friends, and this film definitely holds up if you have not seen Final Destination for some bizarre reason, which I'm sure you have. It's that film that has definitely made you scared of a bunch of random things. This film has Devon Sawa, Ali Larter, Tony Todd, and Kerr Smith. So this film, I was pleasantly surprised because it 110% still holds up. It is still a great time, and this is one of those movies that it's just iconic. These films were a really big deal for the horror genre back in the early 2000s, and we still love to see it. I ended up giving Final Destination 4 stars out of 5. Next up, we have a classic, and that is A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. So I actually did a rewatch of this because this weekend, oh wait, yes, I can say that. Because this weekend here on Sweet and Spooky, we are doing a live table read of this film. It is a part of my new live stream segment called Table Screams. So be there, 8:30 p.m. on Saturday night. Obviously, this film being iconic and being a lot of fun, I gave this one 5 stars out of 5. Next up, we have one that I did a review of, and that is Till Death from 2021. This is Megan Fox's return to film and to horror in general. So this one was a lot of fun. Definitely not the most amazing movie ever. Definitely a pretty generic thriller. But you gotta give it to Megan Fox because she makes the whole damn thing so entertaining. It really is her body language and her humor that make this film so good. I highly recommend this one. Her character is a really smart final girl, and she does a lot of really creative things. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it. It is fairly new, and I believe it came out in July, so for most that haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. I gave this one 3.5 stars. Next up, we have one of my favorite watches this month, and that is Sun from 2021. This film is actually on Shudder right now, which is how I watched it. I was pleasantly surprised because I thought it was just gonna be like some really boring cult movie that really kind of does nothing. But this film, it did a whole lot. The intensity was there. Andy Matichak is amazing. Emile Hirsch is amazing. And the little boy who played her son, Luke David Blum, he was so good. This movie looks stunning. The storytelling is pretty good. And Andy is absolutely incredible. So if you want a film that is just a ride, then I highly recommend this one. I gave this one 4 stars out of 5. Really enjoyed it. Okay, so next up, I have the Fear Street trilogy. If you have not seen my ranking of Fear Street, I am just gonna tell you, I went into these movies 100% thinking that I would not like them and they would be really like, you know, just horror for kids. But it pleasantly surprised me, especially at the finale. I watched all 3 of these films. I will tell you my ranking for each one. For Fear Street 1994, I gave this film 3.5 stars. This one was fun, and I really did like the kills in this one. I think that the kills in this film is the best compared to all the other films, even though there were some kills I did like in Fear Street 1978. But ultimately, in 1978, this film, it really didn't do it for me. I did not by any means hate this movie, but it was very, very boring. Very boring. And it took far too long to get to where it had to go, and it kind of made me feel like the whole trilogy was going to go down, but then part 3 came and it saved the day for me. I gave Fear Street Part 2 2.5 stars out of 5. Now, as for Fear Street Part 3, 1666, this one was my favorite of the series. I actually gave this one 5 stars out of 5. I think the storytelling is done so well here. How everything connects is done really well. My only issue was the ending, how they kind of made it seem like something was going to happen by someone grabbing the book at the end. Like I said in my video, just end it there. You ended the series on a good note. We don't need anything else. We don't need another one. Also, I am here to say this again. Ashley Zuckerman can 110% get it. Okay, after seeing part 3, I was like, woo, I am obsessed. Oh my goodness. Now up next, I suffered this month and I watched all of the Friday the 13th films. And if you guys know, there are 12 of them. 12 Friday the 13th films. I have no idea why they didn't make 13, because that would just make sense, but like, go off. Okay. If you would like to know my thoughts on all the Friday the 13th films, I did a video where I showed you in depth how much I suffered. Oh my god, I don't think I logged all the Friday the 13th movies. Oh my god. Well, if you would like to know my feelings on all of the Friday the 13th movies, just watch my video. I will link it somewhere over here. Next up, we have Evil Eye. This was actually a part of the 4 Blumhouse horror films that were released. I believe it was last year. I'm pretty late to the game. I had just seen this one because my dad actually said he watched it and he said it was pretty good. So I gave it a go, and honestly, this one was pretty decent. It definitely is more along the side of thriller than it is a horror film. It's more of a thriller drama kind of situation. I will say the idea was cool, but I think the ending of this movie was a bit of a mess. It was just kind of silly and ridiculous, but everything other than that, I did really like. This one follows a young woman who gets into a new relationship, and basically when her mother meets the new man that she's dating, she starts to realize very strange things about him and starts to realize certain connections to her past. It is very interesting, definitely more along the side of a thriller mystery than it is horror, but if you're into that sort of thing, then I highly recommend it. I gave Evil Eye 3 stars out of 5. It was pretty decent. Next up, we have The Amusement Park from George Romero. They recently put this on Shudder, and I had been really curious to watching this. And when I did, I didn't expect it to be like a PSA, but it was. I will say it is done pretty well. It is very, very depressing. So I don't recommend this if you're looking for like a really wild horror film from George Romero. This is definitely not that. But if you'd like to check out his other work, this one is on Shudder, so there's that. This one is really just about ageism, and it was interesting, but just very depressing.
I got depression.
I gave this one 2 stars. I'm so sorry. Ooh, and next up we have I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I actually watched this in the beginning of the month, right before my live table read that we did of I Know What You Did Last Summer. This film, if you have not seen it, it is just a cheesy 90s slasher. It is definitely not the best film I have ever seen. But it is a lot of fun. It has Jennifer Love Hewitt, it has Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillippe, and Freddie Prinze Jr. I actually gave I Know What You Did Last Summer 3.5 stars out of 5. This film definitely had to grow on me because when I first watched it, I was just like, wow, that was really boring. And then I watched it again and I was like, okay, I like this. This is a lot of fun. I see what they're going for. Next up, we have a film that I really thought I would hate, and that is Escape Room from 2019, directed by Adam Robitel. If you do not know who Adam Robitel is, he is absolutely amazing. He directed The Taking of Deborah Logan, which is actually one of my favorite found footage films. I thought that this film, Escape Room, would not be for me. It is PG-13 and is also, I don't know, it's just about like these people that go to an escape room. And when I saw this trailer, I was like, wow, that's gonna be awful. That's probably just like for teens. And I watched this and I was highly entertained. This is definitely a good survival horror. It is a lot of fun. It definitely isn't outstanding or amazing, but I had a great time with it. So I actually gave this film 4 stars out of 5. Next up, we have The Hills Run Red from 2009. This one is about a group of young horror fans that go searching for a film that mysteriously vanished years ago, but instead they find out that the demented killer from the movie is real, and things get wild. This is a meta horror film, and you know that I love meta horror here on this channel. So this was actually my second time watching this film. I haven't seen it in years, but I remember that I had liked it many years ago, and I thought for sure, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna rewatch this. It's not gonna age well. It's not gonna be as good as I thought it was. You know what? I'm holding my ground because I rewatched this and I had a great damn time. There are definitely some weird editing and weird little things here in this movie that doesn't work, but I still love this movie. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. This one, it just hits. Speaking of movies that hit, we have a classic horror story. This is a new Netflix horror film, and it is actually Italian. This one is so fun, and it is also super meta. This film follows 5 strangers that are traveling together in a motorhome to reach a common destination. And on their way there, in order to avoid hitting a deer, they end up crashing into a tree. And then things start getting really strange. They don't know where they are, and things start getting really weird from there. I don't want to give too much away, but this film definitely does suspense and intensity really well. Also, there's a lot of good dialogue in this movie that is actually funny. And the social commentary towards the end of the film definitely hit for me. We also have Matilda Lutz, who you would recognize from Revenge, and she was absolutely amazing. Alongside with Francesco Russo, he was amazing. This film has so many great performances, and it was just so fun. This is definitely a Netflix original horror that you should not sleep on. I highly recommend this one. I gave A Classic Horror Story 4 stars out of 5. Speaking of Matilda Lutz, next up we have Revenge, which has been recommended to me so many times. And I finally did it, you guys. I finally got to it. So as you guys know, I do not like revenge movies, and I was definitely skipping this one because I was like, ooh, no, I'm not gonna like that. Now, this one, they do it 100% right. They do not show me what is happening. Love that. And then we get a badass female who kicks all these motherfuckers' asses, and we love to see it. Not only is this film really well done, it looks so beautiful. There's a lot of really bright colors, and I really love that Matilda Lutz's character is kind of just like Lara Croft, and it is everything I have ever needed. I gave Revenge 5 stars out of 5. This one is definitely one that I would 100% rewatch, and it was just really satisfying at the end. Next up, we have Cryball from 2005. This one follows 8 high schoolers at a fancy schmancy boarding school who delight themselves on playing games of lies. And they come face to face with terror and learn that nobody believes a liar, even when they're telling the truth. I 100% thought I would hate this. I saw the cover of this film and I was like, wow, that looks awful. And then I heard Jared Padalecki was in it. We're getting somewhere here today. This film, to my surprise, was a lot of fun. And I would sit here and say this is definitely going to be a movie that is like your guilty pleasure. But you know what? It's not even a guilty pleasure. I am here to say this film is a lot of fun. I am not sure why it got so much hate and didn't do well, but it is a lot of fun. It's just a fun teen slasher film. It's a good time. I will say also, the kills in this movie are not that good, but you gotta get past that. Hi, Jesus. Next up we have Long Time Dead from 2002. This movie, I have to be real with you guys, I don't even really remember what this one is about. Everything about this movie is bad. The acting, everything. I will give it to them that some of the special effects makeup was done pretty well, but everything else was a mess. The story, a mess. A mess. Everything that I would hate is this movie. So I think we should just end it there. I gave this one half a star. Next up we have, I finally did it, you guys, Near Dark from 1987. If you have not seen Near Dark, it is about a Midwestern farm boy who reluctantly becomes a member of the undead when a girl he meets turns out to be a part of a band of southern vampires who roam the highways in stolen cars. So this one, it definitely starts off slow, but once it gets there, it's really well done. It's very well made. It's very well written. And the acting is really good too. I also will say this is more along the side of a thriller than it is a horror. And it also is a little romantic at the end, which I love that. I gave Near Dark 3 stars out of 5. Next up, we have one that I don't even want to talk about, but because it's here, I'm gonna have to talk about it. I finally watched Cannibal Holocaust from 1980.
Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
All I will say about this is thank God for Joe Bob Briggs on Shudder, because Without Joe Bob Briggs' commentary with this film, I definitely could not have watched it. I like to think that I am pretty desensitized to most things in horror, but this movie is just really tacky. It doesn't make any sense how anyone would want to make a film like this. I'm just not really sure why it exists. There's just too much of everything I do not want to see in this movie. Now, don't come in my comments and be like, that's the point. Yes, I know. I just don't care for it. I didn't even rate it. Next, I watched another vampire film, and that is The Lost Boys from 1987. Now, this is my best friend Melissa's favorite movie, and this film was fun. It was a good time. I definitely enjoyed Corey Haim the most in this film, and I think I would rewatch it solely for his performance. It follows a mother and her 2 teenage sons who just recently moved to a small town in California, and they basically find out that this town is overrun by bike gangs and vampires. This one is a silly 80s vampire movie. What more could you want? Next up, we have another one that I just did not enjoy whatsoever, and that is Scare Me from 2020. This one is also on Shudder, and this is one of the most boring things I have ever seen on Shudder, and there is a lot of trash on Shudder. This one follows 2 strangers who end up telling each other scary stories in a cabin during a power outage. Now, I don't know what it is, but I do not find Josh Rubin funny whatsoever. And even though our leading lady was a good actress, it just did absolutely nothing for me. The humor did nothing for me, and a lot of the time I really found this cringy, and the stories they were telling were not scary at all. It was so boring, and by the time anything happens at the end, I really didn't care. Now, on a happier note, we have The Faculty from 1998. I absolutely love this movie. This had been my first time watching this movie, and I don't know why I slept on this film for so long. This film is so fun. This one has Famke Janssen, Salma Hayek, Elijah Wood, Clea Duvall, Josh Hartnett. So many amazing actors are in this film. If you didn't have a crush on Josh Hartnett back in the day, are you even a person? This film follows a bunch of high schoolers that find out that something is very wrong in their school with the faculty. This film is definitely inspired by The Thing and Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And you know what? They do a really good job at just taking inspiration and not just ripping off of those films. So I gotta give credit where credit is due. Also, this film aged pretty well. It definitely holds up. It's a lot of fun. And now we are finally at the end here, and we have The Raven from 2012. This is a fictionalized account of the last days of Edgar Allan Poe's life, and it also stars John Cusack. Now, this movie, I really did think that it probably wouldn't have aged well. But let me tell you guys something. I see John Cusack and I see like anything about Edgar Allan Poe and I am down. Though this movie definitely is silly in some points and pretty far-fetched, it is just fun. And I am gonna be honest with you, John Cusack, he's everything. My nerdy ass was watching this film, just quoting every single Edgar Allan Poe poem. That's me. This one is definitely more along the side of a thriller, mystery, crime drama than it is a full-blown horror, but I definitely think it is a film worth the watch. It may not be for you, but it's pretty fun. There are also some good gory kills in this. Woo! Okay, if you have stayed to the end, thank you so much for watching. All right, you guys, I know that was a lot of films, so that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really helps me a lot. And be sure to click that little notification bell to be up to date every single time I upload. And let me know in the comments, have you seen any of these films? Did you enjoy any of them? What were some of your favorite watches this month? I'd love to talk about it. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.